Back for another Rod's Rambles. Haven't done this for a while because it's, and this, this sounds like something that everyone says, oh, it's really depressing living in the UK now. But I'm not being over dramatic when I say that it actually depresses me because there's so much corruption that we have to face from top to bottom now in the UK. And it's spreading the negativity. It's actually not good for me talking about this stuff all the time. So that's why I haven't been posting very much on here. I mean, I could post every goddamn week the shit that goes on in this country now. But it's just, even over the space of just 1 month here, we've had so much happen. I kind of had to talk about it. I mean, it kicked off with Henry Novak, who I'm sure most of you have heard of the story. 18-year-old kid, he's drunk, he's walking home, sees some third worlder with a dagger, and he's like, oh, you're a bad man, you're a bad man. Mouthing off a little bit, but nothing extreme. Third worlder's like, yeah, I'm a bad man. Shink, stabs the guy. Police come along. This 18-year-old kid is lying in the dirt, bleeding out, pleading that he can't breathe and that he's been stabbed. Police are like, don't think you have, mate, and arrest him for being a racist. Handcuff him while he's in the dirt, bleeding out, dying. And this is something that we used to joke about because we could kind of see the way things were going, but you'd exaggerate things a bit for a joke. So, you could get stabbed by one of them and you'll be the one who gets arrested for being a racist. Well, yeah, actually you will. That's like it's literally happened. And the police afterwards, once they realised their stupidity, they even wanted to badmouth him like that because they had the perpetrators in the back of their car and they were admitting it to each other. It was the guy who stabbed him and his brother in the back of the police car saying, oh no, what am I going to do? Oh, we'll just say it was racist and then, we can get off on self-defence. Which, by the way, I can understand why they had that attitude, but they shouldn't. But that's the attitude that we've bred in this country now, that racism is the worst possible thing, which it isn't. It's not a nice thing, but rape and murder are a lot worse. I'm so tired of racism being like, the worst possible thing that can happen. Like, even if he was racist, which there's no evidence he was, Henry Novak was not racist against him, but even if he was, that doesn't mean you can shank someone to death just because they called you a nasty name. But they said this in the back of the police car. It was all recorded, so the police knew he was guilty and that Henry was not a racist and not the aggressor. But the police wanted to release a statement to the public, outright lying to us, that Henry was the aggressor. And that all the information online about the case was misinformation. And we get this shit all the time. Whenever the mainstream media mention misinformation, that actually means they're the ones peddling misinformation. And that what we're reading online is the truth. But they don't like that. And so there's this constant gaslighting from the media. Just a week after that came out, it actually happened last December, but it didn't really come out until recently, because it blew up online and then the mainstream media started reporting on it. But then a week after that, some other poor bastard got his eyes gouged out by a third worlder who tried to behead him in the street, like it was a completely normal event. And that, combined with the Henry Novak thing, caused some big protests and some riots as well. And the riots were not helped by the police response, because in the UK, if you protest something, depending on if it's establishment approved or not, the police will have a very different response. If it's establishment approved, you can protest, you can get violent at a protest, and the police will be there in the normal uniform. They'll kind of stand back, let you get on with it. But if you're protesting something that isn't establishment approved, the police will arrive in full body armour, the riot shields, and they will goad the protesters and be deliberately aggressive with the protesters to provoke them. And it's all for optics. Because even if the protesters aren't violent, just the police being there in the body armour with the shields gives the impression that, this is a violent gathering, these are the bad guys, look at the police having to be there with riot shields and their armour and that. It's all purely for the optics. So that they can try and portray this idea that, any people protesting this are horrible people, they're the bad guys. Because I studied media years ago, and every single thing you see on screen is scrutinised and planned out. They don't just do anything. Some people have this simplistic attitude that, it's just an advert or it's just a report, so they just do this, they just do it on the fly. They do not. Everything. That's why colourblind casting is not a thing. Colourblind casting does not exist. No one is cast colourblind. He was just best for the role. No. Every single goddamn detail is deliberately put in there when something appears on media, whether it's an advert, a movie, TV show, documentary, the news. So when they deliberately have the police there with the riot shields and that for certain events but not others, that is deliberate to give a certain message on screen. But yeah, there were violent protests about this guy almost getting beheaded in the street. And just as with Henry Novak, the government, Keir Starmer, he comes out, he's like, oh yeah, that's horrible, isn't it? Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. But, oh, isn't it terrible that all this news was spread online and all this information was spread? We shouldn't be able to spread this kind of information online. That's their main concern. Not the horrible things that are happening, but that we talk about the horrible things happening online and that it gets spread online. There was more of an outrage from the government that the video of the guy almost getting beheaded was put online than the fact that the guy was almost beheaded. And yet if the video wasn't put online, we wouldn't have heard about it, because the mainstream media tries to cover this shit up all the time. And coincidentally, all of a sudden, Keir Starmer's pushing in more and more internet controls and censorship. First it was the Online Safety Act, which is a load of shit. That was so anything that's inappropriate, you now have to provide your identification or have your face scanned to condition you into giving over your bio data. They're trying to condition us all to have our goddamn faces scanned constantly. And it was obvious once they got that through that they were going to push it more and more and more. I've said it before, governments are like abusive partners. The more you let them get away with, the more they push it. So it's obvious as soon as they got that through, the Online Harms Act, it wouldn't be too long before they started putting more restrictions and more restrictions. And of course, after all this came out about Henry, about the poor guy who almost got beheaded, Starmer has pushed through for more and more internet censorship. So now they're going to ban under 16s from using social media, which basically means everyone will have to provide identification to use social media to prove that you're not under 16. But they keep that bit quiet. And you get a load of useful idiot parents, useful idiots to the government, who come out and like, oh, well, yes, if it's to protect the children, well, protect your own goddamn children, you lazy fuck. Honestly, lazy, inadequate parents are the bane of society, because the governments can push through more and more censorship and controls and laws and rules and restrictions on our lives. But as long as they can spin it, say, oh, it's to protect the children, you get a load of idiot, lazy-ass parents going, oh, okay then, because I can't be bothered to parent my own child. Well, if you don't want them using social media, you're the one who should be stopping them using social media. We shouldn't all have to suffer because you're a lazy-ass parent. You're inept at your job, parenting your own child. And once again, with the mainstream media propaganda, whenever they interview anyone, because I've seen the videos on YouTube from BBC and from The Guardian and all this, whenever they interview anyone about these restrictions online, everyone they interview is like, oh, I think it's a good idea, actually, yeah. That's bullshit. Because a lot of people in this country are not happy with it. So if they interview anyone who isn't happy with it, they just don't air it. Once again, to control the narrative, to put out this image that everyone's in support of it. Because they are picking and choosing who they actually air interviews with, basically with anyone who will agree with what state approved. It's just blatant propaganda. And the frustrating thing is a lot of people still don't see it. Like, I've worked with people. Last year I was in a job working with like nice people, and they really are like really nice people, but they just go along with whatever the mainstream media tells them, completely oblivious. And they will go along with the propaganda, they believe the propaganda and the gaslighting, and it's really frustrating still there are people like that who just don't get it. But these are people who are, you know, they're busy with their lives, they've got a mortgage to pay, they've got kids to look after, they haven't got the time to research all this stuff, so they just put the telly on, believe what they're told, you know. And that's another reason why Keir Starmer and the media want more controls and restrictions on the internet, so that they control the narrative more. They hate it that we have access to free information online. And yeah, there's a lot of bullshit online, there is misinformation online, but at least online you have the freedom to research it yourself. But anyway, a week after the guy almost got beheaded, a 17-year-old girl gets her throat slashed in the street by another third worlder, for no particular reason. And I was actually surprised there wasn't the outrage over that. There were the last two incidents I told you about. You'd have thought it would have escalated more, but actually for some reason that case just hasn't quite had the reaction that I thought it would have, and things seem to be calming down a bit. And I don't know if it's because Queer and the police have scared people off protesting against it now, because they come down hard. They come down harder on the protesters than they do on the people committing these crimes. And now a week after that, literally yesterday, a baby got thrown into a crocodile pit at a zoo. And they haven't released the name of who did that yet, but they have told us not to speculate, which is code in the UK for it was the third worlder who did it. And they've been released on goddamn bail. They threw a baby in the fucking crocodile pit and they've been released on bail. People who get arrested for social media commenting against all this bullshit that's going on and the destruction of the country, they don't get bail. They'll be kept in jail overnight. It's unbelievable. And the biggest story, or what should be the biggest story, but actually isn't, is that there's been an inquiry into the grooming gangs that Rupert Lowe went ahead with because no other politician was interested, even though they keep claiming they're so concerned about the children. We must censor online, we must have more controls and restrictions online because we're so concerned about the children. What about the hundreds and thousands of children that were gang raped and groomed and passed around by a certain community in the UK? What's that, queer? Can't hear you. Nothing to say about it. Because I don't give a shit. The mainstream media, now that this has come out, that the police were complicit, the police were telling these girls, you know, if we can't find evidence to support what you're saying, you're going to be the one in trouble. This is really going to upset your parents. You know, you should probably just retract your statement. And then they take this girl back to the abusers and pass them back and say, oh, we'll have fun. Hundreds and thousands of women have come forward with these stories. And the police and the mainstream media and the government have said nothing. Nothing. The BBC, not a goddamn thing to say about it. Treacherous bastards, a lot of them. And this is what pisses me off and depresses me, and why I don't make these videos very often. It ain't good for me. It's not good for me. It stressed me out like this. But it's just fucking horrible living in the UK now. If I had the money and the resources, I would get the fuck out of here. I hate it. We've got internet being censored, and they're talking about next month banning VPNs as well. They will not stop. And this is going to get worse and worse. And this is all pushing towards digital ID, which will then lead to a social credit system. This country, it's not much better than living in goddamn China or Korea, for fuck's sakes. People are being raped and murdered on the daily. We only hear about the really big stories that kind of catch the headlines. This shit's happening every goddamn day. And the mainstream media are trying to avoid reporting on most of it. I mean, heck, just the other day, I was driving along, flicked on the radio and the news was on, and it said about how in a gas station near here, someone got bottled at the weekend and the guy who did it is up in court. And that's such a bizarre, random thing, like you just bottled someone at a gas station. And I instantly knew, you know, when you hear about these bizarre and seemingly random violent crimes, you know. And of course, the guy who was up in court was Mohammed. Of course he was. And it's every day. And most of it is not reported to us. And even less of it would be reported if the internet was censored more, which is going to be. They do not want us to know, and they don't want to stop it. They're not interested in stopping it. All they care about is stopping us from hearing about it, so that we won't get annoyed about it. They've even criminalised getting annoyed about it. If you talk too loudly against all this stuff, you will be arrested for inciting hatred. So they've literally made it illegal now to be angry about this stuff. If you hate this stuff going on, and the people who are doing it, you'll be arrested for inciting hatred if you talk about it too loudly. It's even been proven now that there are nudge squads that go to the families of victims of third worlders and say, look, you need to read from this script, because we all kind of cottoned on to that, or more and more of us were cottoning on to that every time someone is murdered by a third worlder, their family come out and they say almost exactly the same thing, that he or she wouldn't want this to cause division and hatred, and you know, immigration's really great actually, and it really enriches our country. And they all said almost exactly the same, and it just seemed so unnatural that in that situation where your family member has been murdered, that would be your priority when you come out and talk to the media. It was very strange, and it started to seem like this is scripted. And it turns out, well, yeah, actually it is. They have nudge squads that they send to the families. And I think they kind of threaten the families, saying, look, if you say anything bad about these people who are committing these crimes, then, you know, that's inciting hatred and you're going to get in trouble. So read from this script. That's not a conspiracy. It's been proven this happens. That is their concern, covering this shit up, not stopping it from happening. They do not care about us. The police, the media, the government is corrupt from top to bottom. And it's so frustrating and upsetting and depressing because you're stuck living in this system that's being controlled by absolute bastards, evil bastards. Literally, Keir Starmer is evil. If you look into the shit that he has covered up and what he is doing, and you understand what he is doing, He's an evil man. And yet it's like that top of the councils, the police, the government, the media, and we're stuck with it. Like, what do? We can't vote a way out of it. Peacefully protesting hasn't done anything. People have been peacefully protesting and complaining about this stuff for the best part of 2 decades. And not only has nothing been done to improve it, things have actually gotten far, far worse. So what are people supposed to do? If people get violent in protests and start rioting, they're demonised, and that just plays into the enemy's hands because they can say, oh, look at these horrible violent thugs, or we need more controls and restrictions on them, and it delegitimises the argument. So it's like, what the fuck do? We're just stuck, we're trapped. I feel trapped. Censored and controlled more and more. And that's why I'd love to get the fuck out of here. I mean, I've got family here as well. It's not just financially. It's like, you know, don't want to abandon my parents here either in their twilight years. But I wish I could. My friend, actually, he got a job where not only did they ship him off to America, but they paid to have all of his belongings, his family, his belongings, everything. He didn't have to pay for a thing. They paid for everything to be shipped out to America for him. It's like, you lucky bastard. Get out of this sinking ship. Even just everyday things. You try driving around the UK and it's a goddamn nightmare because the roads are just crumbling to pieces in every town. But at the same time, the dual carriageways and motorways are constantly being ploughed up, even though there's nothing wrong with them. And once they finish ploughing it up, nothing's changed. It's exactly the same as it was before. But the councils, for some reason, you almost feel like it is deliberately just to piss us all off and just to keep everything falling apart. Like, they don't spend money to fix the actual roads that are crumbling to pieces in towns. But they love pissing money away, bulldozing the goddamn motorways. So it gets to the point where just no roads are particularly usable anymore. Like, you can leave an hour early on a journey and you'll still be late. So it's like, how long do I have to leave early to get somewhere? 2 hours early, 3? No, it's like a relatively minor complaint compared to what I've been talking about here. But it's just all part of the decay of the UK. There's rubbish everywhere. More and more fly tipping because we've got, you know, cultures of people who in their own homelands just dump their shit all over the place. So that's on the rise. Most of this stuff can be traced back to certain things and the growth in certain communities in the UK, but you know, the mainstream media and the councils will act like they're completely oblivious to it. Most small town high streets now are empty buildings or vape shops or Albanian money, I mean Turkish barbers, everywhere, which once again is obvious what's happening there. How come no English people can afford to open businesses in small towns, but all these third worlders can come and all of a sudden they've got all this money to open up these businesses? It's obvious what's happening, but the government, once again, the local councils and the police act like they're oblivious to it all. The mainstream media have just about started reporting on it, but even they're acting ignorant. They're like, what, oh, this is a surprise. Oh, money laundering? What? Is it connected to crime? Ooh, who would have guessed? Fucking morons. We all knew. But yeah, with the grooming gang thing, Starmer's named in it, Sadiq Khan's named in it. They were made well aware like a decade ago, and they covered for it and let the perpetrators off. And Sadiq Khan is such a little weasel, but he only gets voted in because of all his kind are there voting him in every time. But even now, if he gets asked about grooming gangs, he completely plays ignorant. He's like, what's a grooming gang? Can you explain what a grooming gang is? He knows what a goddamn grooming gang is. He's been hearing about it for the last decade and covering it up. Piece of shit. But these people remain in power. These corrupt, evil bastards. I mean, the grooming gang thing alone should have them all removed from office, if not outright arrested. But they're not, and the mainstream media aren't even commenting on it. I hate living in this fucking country now. It's just horrible living in such a corrupt place where it's being destroyed in front of our eyes and we're gaslit. If we notice it, we're the problem and we need to be silenced. The thing is, if everyone truly knew the extent of the damage being caused by this shit, not just all the murders and rapes being committed by these people, but the financial drain on the taxpayer, how it's crippling our infrastructure and the NHS and everything. Just endless problems and costs to it. Financial and the cost of people's lives. Pretty much anyone with any common sense would be against it. except for the hardcore liberal progressives who are like a cult, who just go along with whatever the cult says. And that's why they've been strangely silent on the grooming gang scandal as well, even though they're oh yeah, believe all women and, you know, Me Too and all this. But when the perpetrators are a certain type of person, that doesn't go along with the liberal ideology, so we'll just ignore that. No critical thinking there. They're like brainwashed cult members who go along with the cult. They've got no sense of morality, no sense of critical thinking. They just go along with whatever the cult says so they can stay in with the cult. Now, there is a lot of talk about Russia, because Russia's a real threat to us. I mean, they even sent a couple of Ukrainian rent boys to set fire to Keir Starmer's properties. I mean, that's serious business from the Russian government. I mean, normally, when they try and assassinate someone, they hire professional assassins who use poison and actually quite effective. But for some reason this time they decided to hire a couple of Ukrainian rent boys. But also, a Russian tanker was intercepted in British waters. Luckily, and this is definitely true, because luckily there was a camera crew on board the ship inside rooms that hadn't been cleared yet. So when the military came in those rooms to clear them, the cameras were there and rolling and filming the military as they came in and cleared those rooms. So we know that that's all completely legitimate. So, you know, thank goodness at least Keir Starmer is on it with Russia, because that's the real threat. Like, look over there at Russia. Don't worry about the invasion that's going on in the country and the complete destruction and undermining of our culture. I think it is important that we focus. Look over there at Russia. Keep your eye on Russia over there. They're the threat. They sent these rent boys after Keir Starmer. Thank God they didn't kill him. That would have been awful. Ugh. The mainstream media have been reporting that Rupert Lowe is the most dangerous man in Britain. That's literally an article that was put out by, I don't know, The Guardian or some bullshit mainstream media organisation. Now, we've got people being beheaded in the streets almost, raped and murdered on a mass countrywide scale, hundreds of thousands. But Rupert Lowe, the guy who actually was the only politician interested in investigating into these grooming gangs more, he's the most dangerous man in the UK, apparently. How many people has he beheaded? How many girls has he groomed and sold into sex and rape? Tommy Robinson was arrested the other day on terrorist charges. The terrorist squad went and arrested him. How many people has he shanked in the street and beheaded? How many young girls has he been selling into grooming? But he's the terrorist, and Rupert Lowe is the most dangerous man in Britain, according to the mainstream media and our police and government. Once again, they are constantly telling us and showing us where their loyalties lay, and they just normalise it. They act like that's completely fine and that we should just accept it and eat that shit up. And some people do. So that's why I haven't been doing Rod's Rambles very much. It pisses me off. Stresses me the fuck out. It's just horrible, like, just to know. Because if there are hundreds of thousands of these girls coming forward saying they've been groomed and gang raped, there's probably a hell of a lot more who haven't come forward or that have been covered up. And just the true extent of the destruction and the damage being done. And yet so many people are oblivious to it because of the mainstream media propaganda. It's like, what do you do? What do we do? You know, we get told every time this stuff happens, every goddamn time, it's the same message, the same propaganda, social engineering in the media of, oh, don't look back in anger, we can't let hate divide us. No, actually, we should fucking hate this shit. It's not wrong to hate. It's not wrong to hate the intolerable. It's not wrong to hate rape and murder and these horrible crimes that are going on constantly in this country, and the destruction of the nation, eradication of our culture. Just the housing crisis. Like, everywhere's been bulldozed and destroyed now to build more fucking houses everywhere. But they as much as they bleat on about the environment, they never have any concern whatsoever about bulldozing and concreting all over it all when it doesn't suit their agenda. Just the endless destruction, and yet if we dare to complain about it, we're told we're the problem, or you're spreading hate. Yeah, people should fucking hate it. Because there is this horrible sense of powerlessness. Can't vote a way out of it, can't protest it. Violent disorder doesn't accomplish anything. What the fuck do you do other than just get out? Just get out. Leave this sinking ship. It's going to be a third world shithole in a couple of decades. in this country. So we're heading there goddamn fast.